You're listening to another episode of Battles with Bits of Rubber, starring Stuart Bray and Todd Debrasini.
So what a time. Yeah, it's all going on. It's crazy. I mean, we were going to chat a little bit about it, obviously, but there's not much point because whatever we say will be outdated by the next day anyway.
Except for the toilet paper fiasco.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I mean,
that
all
seems
the
to be
supermarkets,
ongoing.
Yeah, everyone's just buying up everything. You drive past the stores, you can see everything's empty. It's like, why? It's crazy. Everyone's just panicking.
People are freaking out because they're under the delusion that everybody who gets it's going to die, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Anyway.
Wow.
Life goes on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk rubber stuff.
Definitely. Rubber stuff and CGI. I've been taking some of this downtime to get seriously into my ZBrush self-training, and I'm having a ball. I want to marry ZBrush and have its babies.
Well, I see you've been sculpting away an Abby Chase head, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Is it Abby Chase from Danger Girl? Is that
it is Abby Chase from Danger Girl, yep.
Oh, I thought so. Awesome. Yeah, it looked really cool. And that's, a nice smooth shape. I mean, there's form in there, but it's not one of the typical gnarly, wrinkly, kind of over-the-top creature things that people often sculpt with ZBrush.
Yeah. I hope to get there skill-wise one of these days, but I'm starting out slow and just trying to get comfortable with the different brushes and the different forms, and I'm having a great time.
Awesome. Is that a printer I can hear working away in the background?
Yeah, I'm printing a skull for my friend Corey. She's into everything skull, so I've got a skull cap. I'm printing it in 3 pieces, and I did the jaw already, which here's the little jaw.
Oh wow, that's great!
And
very
so
cool.
I'm doing the top of the skull now, and then I'll do the facial lower portion of the skull and surprise her with a little prezi.
Oh, cool! So, why are you doing it in 3 parts? Is it because the way the layers sit?
Yeah, it'll be easy. It's easier to print with a lot less support material.
Oh, amazing! Is it? It's a natural looking skull.
Yeah, it looks pretty terrific.
Oh, cool!
I'll send you the file if you want.
I was going to say, where did?
Yeah, I've thanks to Thingery.com, which is a MakerBot website. It's one of the free files that they've many files that they've got.
Okay.
Some pretty cool
just
stuff,
send me a link.
Actually.
That'd be cool. Because I did try looking for.
Yeah, I'm also building a little baby Audrey 2 for. Little Shop of Horrors. Found a really nice model of Audrey on Thingery.
You did, yeah. You were thinking of the Frank
Ippolito. That's Frank Ippolito's company. Hey,
okay.
Frank.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great.
Thingiverse.
One good bit of news we finally have our website up and running. Fantastic news.
Yeah, and it looks wonderful.
Yeah, so that was good. So thank you, Barbara, for sorting that out. The website, as you can probably imagine, is battleswithbitsofrubber.com, because that's how imaginative we are. I've gone for a ridiculous name for a podcast, so now we have a ridiculous domain name to match it. But surprisingly, no one had taken it. How about that? I bought that.
Run by 2 ridiculous people.
Absolutely. No, I bought the domain name about 2 or 3 years ago and was just sitting on it, and I've been trying to get this website up and running. But it's been a very, very busy year. And, I actually stopped on a show a couple of weeks ago, not because of the virus or anything, just because my portion of it finished. And then they were going to shoot over in LA and Canada. But I think that's all been stopped, as you can imagine. So everything's on hold.
Yeah, I've had several projects put on hold, which I certainly understand, but
it's crippling, yeah.
It's not making the bank account happy.
No, I'm the same. Well, the second all this happened is when all these expenses happen, like the cat thing and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like you can see your bank balance just chipping down, and it must be happening all over. And most of the people I know are self-employed, Yeah, horrific. It's terrifying. And we don't have that sort of backup that you get with a regular job where, there's payments to sort of deal with that. So, yes, it'll be interesting to see how everyone responds to that. It looks like they're going to be closing the schools here as well as from Friday. So, although why they would wait that long, I don't know if they think it's that serious. But so I'm going to have the kids around. So that's going to be fun.
Well, you'll have some free shop help.
Yeah, there we go. I'll get them cleaning moulds and stuff. So there we go.
They'll love that.
So I've been the last couple of days. I've been because the timing of it in terms of sabbatical for me has been good. Obviously, this could be months and months in the making. All this stuff, but I was planning on taking a month or two off anyway to shoot some videos and work on the podcast because we've been very lax with episodes, which I am keenly aware of. But it's just been so tough. Everyone's been so busy. It's been flat out for so long. But that's all suddenly stopped, so that's worked out well timing-wise to indulge in podcast and video editing. Yeah,
we can get to that list of things we've been wanting to talk about.
Yeah, so because I was running pieces a lot, and today I was editing the video of these airbrushes, which were released. Basically, we got a YouTube channel that you set up, and we just got to put some videos on it, which I'm in the process of working on at the moment. But yeah,
and if any of our listeners have suggestions for tutorial videos they'd like to see us put up there, please don't be shy about telling us what you want to see.
Yes, please. That'd be great. Yeah, email us at stuartandtodd@gmail.com. I've got to get a proper domain email for us, but at the moment we're sticking with the Gmail because that's what everyone's been using. But yeah, we've got quite a few suggestions that are being turned into episodes as we speak. We're still writing those. But I just want to talk very quickly about airbrushing cat plastic again, because I did, obviously, running these pieces for the show, I did a lot of that, and then talking about airbrushes generally. What's your sort of go-to thing? I mean, I've got this Iwata, this old Iwata, I think it's an HPC something or other, with a big, it's like a half pint size glass bottle that goes on the underside, and it's fantastic. It's a siphon airbrush, but it's really good.
I've got a couple of pretty good spray guns. One is a Pache that's got it's probably 6 or 8 ounce aluminum. It's a gravity fed sprayer, which I really like. And then I've got picked up one at Harbor Freight for not a lot of money, and it's got probably a plastic pint bottle that goes on the top.
Wow.
It's a gravity fed, and they both work really well. I've got them hooked up to my big air compressor in the shop, and I have quick connect hoses for all of them, and that I've got moisture traps and an airflow adjuster right there at the spray gun, so I don't have to go over to the compressor and adjust the regulator on that. I can do it all right at the airbrush. Mm-hmm. And because the compressor itself goes up to like 150 psi, and that's enough to knock your teeth out.
Yeah, I do not recommend that. Yeah, it's interesting because we just finished the second part of our article for Prosthetics Magazine about airbrushing,
which we thought was only going to be a 2-parter, and
it just kind of expanded into a 3.
Little did we realize how long-winded we are.
Well, once we started looking at compressors, because the big part of doing that was to put out fires, because a lot of people get worried about stuff. So we wanted to go into depth about how to understand things like pressure and connecting and all that kind of stuff with compressors. And it just kind of naturally grew into something a bit more extensive. So that's the case.
But let's hang on a second. Let my phone go to voicemail.
Okay. Just play some incidental music while this happens.
That elevator. Girl from
Okay. I was enjoying that. That's good. We should just do that as a separate track. Just Todd singing to himself.
Which I do a lot.
And I was looking at all the pictures of airbrushes you put up. I've got kind of like workshop envy with all the airbrushes. You've got quite a cool selection of airbrushes. I mean, between us, we have an obscene amount of airbrushes, actually.
It's
collected over the years.
Who needs this much stuff?
Yeah, well, it's very, very cool. But the ones I picked up for these videos were very cheap ones. They're like sort of £10 to £20 or dollars, depending on where you are. And they were, very economical. So those videos, when they're uploaded, I'll let everybody know. But we're still editing those now. But I was just using that. So I've got that, and I've also got one from a company called US Pro, which I bought on Amazon, and it's a similar. It's one of those kind of HVLP, high volume, low pressure touch-up guns. So it's not as big as a full-size one. It probably has like a half-pint cup on the top, but it's fantastic. But you do need a big compressor to produce enough air to pump it out. Yeah, it works very well, I have to say. So I'm very happy with that. So for big stuff, I use that. But this big, Iwata. Well, it's a standard Iwata airbrush, but it just has a big, probably a quarter pint. It's like 3 or 4 ounces size glass, sort of conical looking container underneath. It's brilliant for that sort of stuff. It's really nice fine mist.
I think that some people get a little reluctant about running cat plastic through their airbrush because they're afraid it's going to be really difficult to clean if somehow they don't get at it right away and the stuff dries in the airbrush, which can create a little bit of a headache, but it's much easier to get dried cat plastic out of an airbrush, any airbrush, than getting dried packs out of an airbrush.
Yeah, true.
I am not brave enough to run packs through an airbrush. At least I haven't tried it yet.
No. Well, I have
just because I know.
Yeah.
What a procrastinator I am.
I have in the past, but it's one of those things where you need a big-ass needle, but also the trouble is it just, because it's water-based, it just beads up on the surface you're spraying unless you have a very low pressure, so you've got to be very patient with it, and I just don't have the patience to do that. I tend to use, if I'm painting objects, I might use like acrylic inks with a bit of alcohol in them or something, but straight packs would be a nightmare to paint. With an airbrush, I think. It would just dry, like you say, so quick, and then it just becomes this gummy mess that just doesn't break down. In the way
if anybody out there has tips on how to get better at running packs through an airbrush, I'm all ears.
Yeah, stick to rubber cement. I think it's probably much easier to work with.
Which also is pretty easy if that dries up in your airbrush. All you got to do is just run solvent. In it, or let solvents soak the end of the airbrush in solvent, and problem goes away. Yeah,
I think the only issue you might have is if you've got rubber seals, they can get broken down. But if you know your airbrush well enough, you basically you should be able to strip your airbrush down and reassemble it. But if you keep or acquire, if you just put the if you do a Google search on instructions for the airbrush you have, just look at the parts, the name of the airbrush, you should find a parts list. And then you'll see where your rubber seals are. There's usually a couple. You can just take those off before 5 minutes to take it apart. And then, or just take the seals off that you need to. There's only a couple you really need to worry about. But the cheaper airbrushes tend to not have those rubber seals anyway. So, or if they do, they're easily replaced. But it's not.
I think that's more true of the single action airbrushes than the dual action.
Yeah, I mean the single action airbrushes are absolutely perfect for cat plastic, to be honest. But I've got this really cool tip. I actually got it from it was Dave Elsey's idea. It was a really neat one where he wanted some cat plastic sprayed on the outside of pieces, and I was doing something like that, and I thought, wouldn't it be a cool idea if when I was running pieces, I'd spray a couple of layers in the mould first, just on the mould itself, not on the core, but on the mould surface I'd spray a couple of layers of IPA-based cat plastic, the alcohol cat plastic, let that dry, and then ditch that out, clean out the airbrush, and then push regular acetone cat plastic behind it. So you did it in 2 different kinds of cat plastic. You did the same amount of layers, 4 or 5 layers, but the first 2 are alcohol-backed cat plastic, and then you back it up with the acetone cat plastic. The reason being that when you take your piece out, the surface of it is alcohol-based. So when you paint it, the alcohol colours you use to paint it really bite into that surface but they won't go all the way through.
That's a great idea.
You still use acetone to melt the edges off, but it just means for pieces that are on collars or cuffs or where there's a lot of contact, the colour is less likely to rub off. So because the surface of it is actually alcohol-based cat plastic. And that seems to work quite well. So there's a little tip.
That's a terrific idea. It's not too unlike the bald cap tutorial we did, where we're using different materials.
For
the bald cap.
Very well. It's amazing actually how many times people have asked questions, and I'm like, "Oh, we did an article about this," and then I have to kind of go through my magazines and try and figure out which edition of the magazine it was, and then try and point people towards the subscription. I'm serious. You have to get Prosthetics magazine, because every time one comes out, there's about 5 or 6 tutorials in it that you really need to watch or look through and read. And then the very question that you're asking is there, and it's one of those things where it's like over time you're going to accumulate this really good wealth of knowledge in those articles. So worth looking up.
I equate Prosthetics magazine with Cinefex because it has a tremendously long shelf life. You can go back a decade and look at articles in Cinefex and everything.
And it's
still
interesting.
applies.
I mean, when it started getting more digital, and it was not that there's nothing wrong with digital, but from a reading point of view, it was just furrowed brows looking at monitors. It didn't make for great reading in the same way that a lot of the prosthetic stuff did. Yeah, no, that's a fair comparison, I suppose. But yeah, no, it was. It's nice to have that place. But yeah, so we did a nice thing out with the ball cap and everything. But it was Dave Elsey's suggestion to spray pieces that we'd painted, because it was for Dracula, and he'd painted them and he wanted them protected so that when the alcohol makeup over the top went on, it didn't dislodge the pre-paint. So he had me airbrush a very, very fine mist of regular acetone-based cat plastic over the top. And it really worked. It just kind of locked it in there without disturbing it, and then you could paint over the top, and your alcohol wouldn't dislodge or move the pre-painted stuff. And that made me think, working in layers. And then I started running pieces for something else with the alcohol back cap, the alcohol cap layer first, and then backing up with acetone, knowing we were going to then pre-paint with alcohol paints and then spray over the top with acetone. And I thought, I wonder if that would be useful for things like collars and stuff, and neck pieces where collars would be rubbing. Anyway, I'm waffling a lot. I'm sorry.
So, what's your favorite cap plastic? What is your preferred?
Well, to be honest,
plastic of cap.
My favorite that I've ever used is probably the motion picture effects cap plastic chips. That you melt down yourself. Those things are amazing.
The clear stuff.
Yeah. Do they still make that?
They make the liquid stuff, but unfortunately, they're, for some reason, I have to check with Jeff and see why, or if they're going to get it back. But they're not making the chips anymore.
Got it, because that stuff was great.
Which is a bummer, because that way you could transport that stuff with you and make your cap plastic on site and not have to travel with acetone.
Well, that's it, because it's flammable, to ship. So they're going to sell less of it. That's a shame.
Yeah, but it's amazing. They sell it in concentrate form that you can thin with acetone, but they also sell it in a form that's already pre-mixed, ready to airbrush.
Yeah,
and I mean it's water clear.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Fabulous stuff.
Because sometimes it does tend to yellow. Not that that's a big problem, but sometimes it does tend to yellow in the bottle. But other than that, if I can't get that, I like the regular Baldy stuff, and Neill Gorton does one called Keycat Plastic, which is kind of very similar. But he also does the beads, which is very good, and you can melt those down there. So it takes a few days, maybe a week, in the acetone to break down. But that motion picture stuff was amazing. I do like the alcohol cap plastic. See, here's my thing as well. I mean, I really like alcohol cap plastic as a cap plastic. It's just I don't often use it. I think
generally it's stretchier.
Yes. It is stretchier. It takes longer to evaporate, and you've got to be more careful getting out the mould. I have found it's almost impossible to make it too thick when you're building up your layers. It's very difficult to accidentally make the pieces too thick.
Which is not the case with acetone.
No, no, with acetone it can be very, very spiky like that. But it's just one of those things where it's just messy because it creates a lot of cobwebs when you're using it. So it's just not very nice to work with, which is why I don't really use it in demos and stuff, because it's quicker to use the acetone one, and it evaporates quicker when it's acetone as well. But I think other than that, just the regular Baldies is my number 2 go-to. I've still got a packet of those chips. I'm reluctant to use them now. I'm going to have to save them for something special. Man!
You're hoarding them.
Yeah, I'm going to hoard them. Like the toilet paper! We should probably chat a little bit about our interview this week, which is with Mr. Neill Gorton. So I chatted to him, he was up to, Millennium up in Aylesbury, so I drove up to Aylesbury, so you'll hear in the audio, it was basically in the reception, in the bar area of his hotel. So there's a bit lively noise going on, and you can hear it over the period of time. You can hear it get quieter as people sort of leave and go away, and you can hear like the service for tomorrow being put out, and there's cutlery being put out on the tables and stuff. But it's clear enough, and it's all a good chat. But we talked a lot about education and about the reluctance of people to grasp the nettle of difficulty, which is kind of key to a lot of things, because we both teach, obviously, and so does Neil, and it's one of those things where it's a common thread, I find, that a reluctance to deal with very, very difficult things is a very telling sign of how people are going to get on in life generally, I think. The people that take the path of easiest, the least resistance all the time, they're not going to ride out the difficult stuff in the same way that someone that seems to deal with those things. And I really wanted to dig a bit deeper with Neil on that.
People want the knowledge, they want the information, but they don't want to have to work to get it.
Yeah, well, I think maybe things in life, up until recently, things in life have been a lot easier compared to how they would have been, back in the, 30, 40 years before. So, like we say, in the interview, just how you would find information. You'd have to know about something in order to look it up, and you'd have to go to a library. So there was, there was resistance in the way. There was a lot of effort involved in acquiring information, and now you can pretty much find anything you want on Google instantly. So.
And yet we still get questions fairly regularly from people wanting to know how to do something, when I hold back my urge to say, well, let me Google that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those things where, was it someone who posted something about, where can you get a reference of somebody that hanged or something? And it was just like, well, Google it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's a pretty straightforward. I mean, try. I mean, do that first, and then if you genuinely can't find anything, then maybe ask. But yeah, when the question actually reveals they haven't even bothered looking, that's when it kind of upsets people. Especially when the people you're asking have, given up everything and worked for years, doing very difficult things to try and get better. You object
to acquire that very information. Yeah.
So it was a good old chat. So have a listen and enjoy the dulcet tones of Mr. Gorton.
The dulcet tones of Mr. Gorton. I do love his voice.
Yeah, it's always weird. Starting this conversation is weird. As soon as you start recording
Well, is it formal? Hi, I'm Neill Gorton.
There we go.
You're Stuart Bray.
And we're having a chat. So
we've known each other for...
probably 90... When did Ryan come out? It was 2 years, or a year before Ryan.
Yeah, we were...
96.
I remember the first time meeting you was at Ealing Studios.
Yeah.
You came along to Ealing.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I was thinking that the other day. I was there on Friday doing a makeup test.
Ooh.
And I was thinking, knocking out Casio watches.
Yes.
Some display things.
Yeah.
Fibreglassed in those.
Yeah.
And G-Shock and just loads of shop display stuff.
Anything to make a buck?
Well, yeah, it was work. And but it was Ealing Studios. I was like, yeah. I remember you looking through my folio and yeah. That was weird. Yeah, we did the interview there.
Yeah.
And I was really chuffed. Yeah. You'd have a look at my stuff. I was like, yeah. And I started work, and it was like,
yeah, but
ever since.
that must have been 95, something like that.
About 95, yeah. I left college in 95, so yeah.
Oh well, there you go. 95, 96.
So 25 years.
25 years.
That's fucking
Drink
terrible.
to that.
That's unreal. It's fucking scary.
Yeah.
So, what I whenever I do these things, I like to have an angle. I don't just have general kind of chit chat. My angle with you, the thing I associate you with, you may not associate yourself with this, you may not agree, but I associate you with very pragmatic problem solving when it comes to fixing problems that happen.
Yeah.
You've never been afraid to fucking grasp the nettle.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to talk about that in relation to my experience. I'll tell you my experience. That when I do the job, obviously, but I also teach a fair bit. And when I've taught, I've noticed a decline in willingness to deal with difficulty.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you would be prepared to talk to me about that and how somebody would... Like, when things go wrong, when you're doing prosthetics or anything, really, in life, stuff goes wrong. And the people that you want around you are the people that fix it. So I want to focus on an approach to thinking about how someone should approach problems and when things go wrong. Because that seems very important, because it doesn't seem like anyone's sort of discussing that, and I think that's pertinent, because with anything that's complicated and anything of value, it's difficult, it's going to be hard, it's not easy.
And you know what? It's such a valued thing. You know, I mean, I look at people, when I see someone who is willing to just step up when something's going, you know, or trying to fix it, is there with ideas and is trying, you know, I think without being condescending, I think these days, for everybody, oh, here's a thing, oh, there's an app for that. You know what I mean? There's someone else you can either pay to fix it or do, oh, there's an app for it, or you can go online and they'll switch your bills. You don't have to think. And I think there's a malaise that's come into life in general that I think falls back into that, and you get the problem solvers. Our industry from day one was entirely a problem solving industry. I mean, when I started, the first problem was finding information.
Yep.
You couldn't begin unless you solved that first problem. I grew up in Liverpool, not much of a film industry there.
So not.
In the 1970s and the early 80s. No internet, no all those things, without sounding like an old fart going, before the internet, there literally was. So if you wanted information, you had to solve that problem.
Yeah. Go to a library or find a book.
And so basically, if you didn't solve that first problem, you didn't get off to a start. So we were all problem solvers. Yeah. And I look back at the guys, you know, because Image Animation, there was myself, Mark Coulier, people like that, we all started there. And we were all kids, and we were all came from the same back. Mark's from up northwest like me. He'll have done the same thing. You solve that problem of what the hell is prosthetics? How do I get into it?
Yeah.
How do I even begin is a problem. But nowadays it isn't. You can just go, I'm into prosthetics, and you sit down and within 5 minutes you're on the internet and you can find out anything. Mm-hmm. And then you can go to a local university and do a degree course and meet people like me and you. So yeah, the art of problem solving, I think, is being lost because they're just in the first instance. By the time people hit their first problem, they could be several years into a career. Whereas we had it before we just couldn't.
Yeah.
We had to solve that very first problem.
Yeah.
Which is no information on my doorstep.
Yeah, it's weird how. Yeah. It's like the information that you could ever possibly want is there, but it's almost like this as the amount of information has become available, the willingness to do the graft of sifting through it is reduced.
Well, it's
a weird correlation, isn't it?
And the thing is, I'm as much of fault as well, because, you know, I start a Facebook group which is all about problem solving and things like that. We did 911 and we did all that. But that's there because actually what it's meant to be is a place to bring a problem after you've tried to do it.
Right.
But so many people just go, you know, I'm going to do this, tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it should be when you've been doing it and then gone, I've run into a problem.
Yeah.
and I've exhausted all avenues.
Yeah.
But you can't say no to people.
No, it's interesting because you'll see problems as well on the 911 particular where people go, oh, I've done this like 50-piece overlapping multiple appliance and my sculpts aren't coming off. Why is that? I had this message the other day where someone was trying to float pieces off and she'd had it in water for a couple of days. And I was like, did you use any release before you sculpted? She's like, well, no, the Jew didn't tell me that. I was like, well, so... Do you know? So you kind of go, that's a really basic thing, but it obviously happens because people have seen people float pieces off, so they kind of ape it without really knowing why you would float pieces off, or if it's necessary even, or indeed how you would do it. And it's that kind of like... that's why I like doing this podcast, because we have chats and I get to say to people, look, the thing is, a lot of this stuff is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
I mean... even for the people that do it all the time, like we're operating at 100%. You know what I mean? If you could have a fucking graph showing how your CPU's working when you're trying to figure shit out, it's a full tilt, and you can't just kind of breeze in and pick up something and throw it together. Because the thing is, if it's easy to do, everyone's doing it, and therefore it has no value. So what, by definition, what has value, what's going to be important, what's going to get you employed, is not what everybody else is doing easily.
And the other point is that if you can do something really well, you make it look easy. So people do look on things and think, oh, that's easy. This was what was interesting. This is why I wanted at a prosthetic event this year with Charlie Shaw.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who kind of go, yeah, you can do that online thing. I can be a YouTube sensation. And, I'm sure you got it from talking to Charlie, and when you look at it, you suddenly realise that those people who are the overnight sensation are after 5 years of hard work and fine-tuning and honing their craft, then they're an overnight sensation.
Yeah.
There's still, even on the medium that sells you by its nature the idea that you can be an overnight success, and that all you have to do is point a camera at yourself and paint your face and you become famous, and people throw products at you and you become... It's like it's not. That's really hard work. I was interviewing a lady called Vanessa Davis, who's the sculptress. I don't know if you know her. She's got that wonderful style of those fabulous skulls she does and everything. And you know what? It was several years of doing it herself and honing it, and she's really talented. She's got a fine art background and all these skills. She was a wig mistress for years. Now she's an Instagram sensation and everything. But she's got all the skills behind her.
Yes.
And a decade of being a wig designer and all these fabulous stuff, working in operas. That's why her Instagram is a huge success.
Yeah.
Not because she suddenly just thought one day,
I want some of that.
I'll have a bit of that. And it's like, hang on, I'm on the checkout in Tesco. You know what? I'm just going to go and buy some makeup, paint my face, film a bit of that, and I'll be famous.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you still need all the hard work, even if it's on YouTube, where they sell the idea that these are just people filming themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. There's often a lot of equipment and a team and
stuff behind it that isn't evident. Yeah.
I mean, Vanessa's phenomenally smart. She understands the media. She understands marketing. She was the smartest kind of marketing person I've talked to, because she really knows when and how and the way to deliver and all the platforms. She's not just someone who threw up a video on YouTube, and none of those things are. But all of those, I mean, when you look at the ones that have got a couple of million followers, they're a program, they're engineered. There's people there filming, recording, editing, making sure the sound quality's right.
SEO.
All that stuff, that's it. Massive amount of work goes into it. It's not an easy job. And, people like Vanessa, it's like Halloween is the massive time, so all August, September, they're planning, they're filming, it's a business, So at the event, I wanted to get that point across. It's like, come and listen to one of these guys, because you're not going to go, well, I won't do all that hard work of trying to get a job in film until I'll just sit at home, paint my face, and I'll be famous. Yeah. Nice try, but no.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Because that's what they're seeing. And it's like, that's not what it is. There's more to it than that.
But that's the illusion. That's the point of those social media things, is they work beautifully because they make you think they're accessible. They're more accessible. We've gone from a culture of, people on TV were like up on a pedestal. Whereas people online, they're accessible because you can talk to them and you can interact with them.
Yeah.
Whereas people on telly, when we were kids, you didn't interact with these people.
No, yeah.
They were gods in another realm.
You got to follow them on Twitter after you saw,
Now people can watch someone and go online and talk to them, or some people are abusive to them or whatever, but you can interact.
Yeah.
And it democratizes, and it makes that thing.
It does. It's weird because you can contact somebody and maybe they'll even see your tweet or whatever message and respond, but that doesn't give you access to who they are and what they do, and it's kind of cheapening the real meat and potatoes of what anything of value is.
Well, but the thing is, what I find interesting is people think then they're watching those things and they think, oh, it's just a guy with a video, he's just filming himself or she's filming herself, and that's it. And it's not. There's a whole machine going on there.
Yeah.
And they don't see it. It's another illusion, which I think is very clever. It's just you're not... With television, you knew there was a studio and everyone was there and the newsreader wears a tie and all that kind of thing. Whereas these things are selling you the same thing, but they're doing it in a way that you think you're on the same level.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. That's what they're doing. They're making you believe something that is still alive.
Yeah.
It's very clever. There's a lot of stuff going on there, which is...
That's a good point.
It's done to make you think you're on the same level as people.
And then when you look at the numbers, you realise it's not the case. Because that's the thing, you don't own an audience. You can't make people like you or watch you. You've got to come with it. I think the thing is, I was listening to a podcast today actually talking a little bit about similar kind of stuff where it's like the successful people are like they're business people who use YouTube as a way of getting their stuff out. It's not that they just exist on YouTube.
Yeah.
You've actually got something first. Once you've got something, then maybe you video it or you blog about it or you write about it or you put some of it out there, but you've got to have something first.
Yeah.
But that's
the classic, though, isn't
it? But no one's mentioning that, or people don't know that necessarily.
I've got a 9-year-old daughter. Kids go, I want to be a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. And it is the first thing you and I would go, but of what?
Yeah. You're 9 years on the planet?
What? There has to be a subject matter, And
you will get stuff like my kids watch. I got 2 boys, and they'll watch like people who rage on Xbox, whatever, and it's like so what they're looking at is extreme responses to things, and it's like that can be funny, I suppose, in the short term, but at the same time, if you think that's the baseline of how things are, then it kind of skews everything, because actually what people need, what you and I need, like if I fall over and hurt my leg or we call an ambulance or something, like we need someone who's competent and calm and capable to come in and make it better and take care of it all. And that's what every one of us needs, and no one's kind of pushing that point. It's always about like it's the top that falls open on a Super Bowl advert, or it's someone falling down the stairs on a skateboard or something stupid that gets lots of views, but that's not what we need, and it's not what you should aspire to be. And that's a really old farty thing to say.
No,
I know that.
Absolutely, and I think this is the genius of it and the danger of it all at the same time is the fact that people are watching it thinking it's real, because you wouldn't watch a TV program thinking it's real and accessible to you, because it was on the telly and it was people far away in a studio in London or something, so you knew there was a division. Whereas people watch YouTube and think that their neighbour's making that program, and they're lulled into that idea that it's all just available to them, which is marketing, which is selling stuff.
Yeah.
And the reality is, then when reality kicks in, and when suddenly you can't just film yourself and make a career out of this, it's confusing for people, because they're going, but it was simple. There was someone just there with a phone filming themselves, and they made fortunes. And it's like, They're not. They're really not. They're giving you an illusion. And you've got to understand that this is why people get, we see it in college and that people kind of not making the effort because they go, well, it's simple, isn't it? I've seen people do it and they just do this thing online. It's simple and they're making a career. And it's like, they're not.
No.
They're making you think they are.
Yeah.
Because that way you'll subscribe and you'll follow because that's attractive.
Yeah. I mean, the good people are, like Charlie and stuff, they do have talent and they're very good. But the danger is, this is what we're trying to sort of get across, is that there are people that don't get from the video the nuts and bolts of what. If you were trying to replicate that, first you've got to get your craft. Like he was trained,
he was trained in makeup and he worked very hard.
And you didn't see all of that.
No.
I mean, I know he's been going for a while, but he was good before he fired up the camera.
This is the point.
People just think, well, I buy a camera first because they're cheap. Yeah. I could upload.
He didn't learn on camera.
No.
He learned before.
Yes, you've got to put the hours in
and that's the
graft. And people don't think of it as graft. And that is every single time I run a course, I'm doing one at the moment, like something I will hear every time on application hours, the people will say, I had no idea this much went into it.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, because if you do a good job, all that stuff, it's like if you stop washing, like that's when people notice. But if you wash every day, no one says, do you know what I mean? So the work that you put into maintaining things and, being good, they don't get noticed. It's only when you fuck up that
But the thing
notice.
is, it's nothing new. We've all been, it's marketing, it's advertising. You go back 100 years and read an advert for or you go back 70 years and there's an advert for Camel cigarettes approved by your doctor to help you, It's lies. That's called marketing. YouTube now is still just marketing.
Yeah.
It's just another way to market things. And what people do in marketing is they don't go, buy this product, but it's really difficult. They go, buy this product, it's easy. Buy this product and you'll be handsome. Buy this perfume and you'll smell fabulous. Buy this. It's marketing.
Yeah.
So all these online things are going. What happens is people don't click on the one where someone goes, right, I'm going to show you something that's really difficult to do. They go, all right, I'll try another one. Hey, watch this. It's really easy. I'll go with this one. No one's going to deliberately choose the difficult thing. So they're all just marketing an idea. And
I've done a fair few videos like that where people have commented, no one's got time for that, or it didn't look this hard on Face Off, or whatever. And it's just like, oh God, that took so long. I'm like, yes, it does take this long. That's the whole fucking point. I did like a bleeding Stanley knife, and it's like, it's got to be safe. It could be shot from either side. It mustn't cut the guy. It's got to be reused. It's got to be, all of these things. It takes this. It took a couple of days.
Well, we've seen it online, haven't it? All those people go, yeah. Okay, I understand that that's how you do it, but is there a quicker, cheaper, simpler way to do it? Yeah. It's like, if there was, we'd be doing it.
Yeah.
Or not to get the same result.
Yes.
Everyone goes, yeah, that's fine, but there must be a... No, there isn't.
No, it's true. And if there was, you wouldn't like it. It'd be like the Aldi of the fucking effects. Yeah. Do you want to be the Aldi of the effects bar? It's just like... It's the weirdest thing. This happened last week. Somebody said, what's the quickest way of doing such and such? And I said, the quickest way or the best way? And she kind of... the best way. I was like, because the best way isn't the quickest way. Because at the end of the day, it was Seth Godin that said, the danger with the race to the bottom is you might win.
Yeah. That's absolutely it. And... you will always find that we will always, the amount of times we've come up with a little technique where you go, my God, that's brilliant. That's now cut out a problem or changed the process. Great. But that's little bits you chip away at. There's not just this wholesale, we can just do away with all this boring sculpting, moulding, casting. I mean, even the digital stuff, we've got printers coming out of our ears. We're all getting in there.
Still fucking work.
You know what? You've still got to sculpt.
Yeah.
You've still got to be able to sculpt. Yeah. The computer doesn't sculpt.
Yeah.
People sculpt.
Yeah.
And if you're crap at sculpting, you will suck at sculpting.
You'll find out quicker
digitally.
Yeah, you find out quicker digitally.
Just as much. Basically, your hands are cleaner. That's all. But you still suck.
Yeah.
It's all still process.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through the process.
Yeah.
And you've got to do the thinking.
Then you've got to figure out how to fuck out your X-axis is off or whatever. It's still work. It's still the willingness to grasp the nettle, isn't it?
It doesn't get any simple. And literally, I mean, I've had so many. We are just turning into two old men complaining. But it's true. And I think the most important thing is, first of all, YouTube and all Instagram video, they're all still marketing. They're just marketing. Anything that shows a magical, quick, sweet. I always kept saying, remember Slug? Remember seeing that? The stuff?
Yes. Yeah,
right? The Brazilian guy, and he kind of pasted on the arm and does the quick things, and everyone will go, brilliant, where do I get this? It's like, no, but you don't realise that was just one quick little video. It was the action almost sold it. Slap it on,
a
couple of little slashes.
You can't do
it's
that
like,
shit.
wow, that's magic.
Yeah.
And the fact is, okay, that's a guy who just does that all day long. And secondly, it lasts 30 seconds on the arm and then it falls off.
You can't touch it.
It's utterly useless. But for that moment of that video, it was like a revelation to everyone. And still, every now and again, that bit of video pops up and people go, wow, where can I buy this? And you just go, there you go. It worked. That marketing, that commercial, that sales pitch was brilliant. It's crap, but
it sells.
There will be a lot of people buying it.
It's bizarre.
You know, and this is the problem. You know, where it's. I mean, why has Ellie Max got that kind of pretty Swedish girl slap the makeup on? Because if it was a baldy, hairy bloke like me or you, it would have like 20 followers. Yeah. You know, that's just it's marketing. They're selling something.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a weird one. I mean, it's weird because there's a lot of good stuff on Instagram, but there is a lot of things like when we do, like at the moment with the course, people are like, we ask them like, what do you want to do? You know, think about what you like to do, and often people come up with the same thing, and it's weird. If you're in a position where you set a lot of projects, you often see the same things cropping up, and you kind of know where they came from because you sort of saw the first time it was done, like the first time the finger was cut in sections and then offset like a kebab. The first time a playing card was in the face, the first time a pencil was up the nose, the first time a Coke can was in the eye, or whatever. And they become tropes. And I know there has been like divisions where people are like, well, there's pro people and there's people that do it for fun, and the pros get annoyed at it. But the trouble is when you're teaching pros on a pro course, or someone purports to be a pro, and then they bring that to you, and you're like, you've got to understand this shit. You can't rock up to fucking Gordon Ramsay with a pot noodle and say, where's my fucking certificate?
I mean,
do you know what I mean? It's like all you've done is denigrate the entire notion of what a chef is.
I'm kind of okay, you know, Coke cans in the eyes. There's people having fun with it. Fine, have fun. When I was a kid, you know, a bit of blood and all of that, you had fun. You start out having fun. So I think, yes, the problem is when someone tries to blur the line and says, this is how you get jobs on movies. It's like, well, no, you don't. You know what? If you want to do a Coke can and you're like, great fun, have a laugh, do it really well.
Not with the real Coke can, though.
Not avoid the whole glass and platinum metal. That's a whole side of it. But the simple fact is, those kind of internet sensation things, that's the nature. People are always going to fucking copy it. They want to do that. It's fun. Let them have fun. Have fun. But then don't turn up with that in a portfolio to try and get a job on a movie, because you'll get laughed out of town. The danger is only the people who are telling people that is professional work. By all means, say to people, look, it's great, that is great. Where it lives is online. Where it lives is on YouTube or Instagram or all that. That's where it lives.
And it's a new medium, and people like you and me don't live there.
No, and have fun doing it. And people will love, and you will swap it with your mates, and you will do it well, and that's great. No producer ever rang up someone and said, hey, we're doing this movie about people who get attacked by Coke cans, and, you know, I've seen all the likes you got for your Coke can in the eye. Can you come and do the Killer Coke Can movie? It's never going to happen. So it exists in its world. Keep doing your world. Keep enjoying that, loving it. You know, if you want to come to the prosthetic event and get some new bloods and everything, come and do that. No one's going to belittle you for it. If you're happy doing that, great, do it. But the second you turn around and say, I want to do this for a living, then you have to kind of go, well, okay, I learned a few things there, but now I've got to step up. So everyone's got to start somewhere. Everyone's going to start with a bit of nose point and a bit of blood. We start with, I started with the Dick Smith kit and everything. I'm sure there was professionals at the time kind of sneering at that. I bet there was someone going, what the hell is Dick Smith doing a toy?
Yeah.
Okay? So I've got no problem with the wall at all. It's only the people who try and tell people that's... And I've seen people trying to sell courses going, I'm going to teach you, here's some Coke can in the eye. I will teach you this. This is movie makeup. Well, it's not. No, it's internet makeup. That's fine. Teach it what it is. Don't pretend. It's like, as you say, it'd be the equivalent of someone saying, come and learn to cook, and you turn up and there's a kettle and a pot noodle. That's not going to get you a job at a Michelin-star restaurant. You'll feed yourself, but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard. I never want to dismiss or denigrate or at all, be cynical towards people who are doing that and enjoying it. No problem at all. But, as you say, understand what it is. Do the research and understand that isn't how the Oscars were this weekend. That's not how they turned Charlize Theron into, the American news anchor woman. There was incredible technical skill, and there wasn't a Coke can in the eye. and that's what won the Oscar.
It's really fucking hard to do that stuff.
And that's really hard. So just have a real kind of take a minute to understand the industry and understand the scope of it and understand what's involved.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast. Just to remind you that you can get in touch with us through email and our Facebook page to comment, ask questions, or make suggestions to us for future episodes. Now back to the show.
I'm always joking with my wife about the fact every time X Factor's on, it's like, I'm going to go and be a singer. I'm tone deaf. As most of them auditioning are. But you wonder how they don't know that they're tone deaf. Yeah. And that's the humour. We all laugh at the fact that someone goes on there, they do the big build-up, and when they open their mouth, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
You're wondering, how did you get that? Why did no one step up and go, you understand?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you mentioned that, because, I don't sing, but that's a very good analogy for how, basically, singers were singers, you saw them on TV or in concerts, and they were like these hallowed people that had the skill, and now you have the X Factor or something like that, where thousands of people queue up, and most of them can't sing.
Yeah.
Most of them can't sing well enough on demand, and most of them maybe can't follow, and then do it with the pressures that are professional singers. So you have to whittle it down, but there's massive entertainment in watching people sound awful and breaking down because for the first time in their life, someone who isn't their parents has said, you're just shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's funny for people to watch. They put it in, especially the most reactive. But it kind of gives you, again, a full sense of, like, the bottom line is, I think anything that's really, really good is rare. And that's the thing, it's not easy, it's not commonly found, that's why it's good.
And it's like, I also find, I see a lot quoted these days, the old 10,000 hours thing.
Yeah.
Which, again, you read that book and you go, you see, David Beckham spent 10,000 hours kicking the ball and now he's the best kicker of the free kick. No, but he also had talent.
Yes. Talent without the work is no good either.
So just 10,000 hours of doing something. I know plenty of people in this industry who are freelancers who have done more than 10,000 hours of putting on makeups or making moulds, and they're okay.
Yeah, no, other
they're
people
not,
who are just breathtaking.
But there's other people who, with in a shorter amount of time, could do it brilliantly. Mm. There was just an aptitude, and there's a kind of half and half. There's a lot of effort and ability. And when the two things come together, it's fantastic. And that's why, there are people who started in the same year and who 20 years later, some are, winning Oscars and some are just the guy on the crew. because one had a certain aptitude, a certain level of skill, plus a certain, thing about them, whether they were just go-getting or whatever. There's so many other elements.
Yeah.
So, but people, again, just get stuck on this. They see one thing and they go, see, you just practice for 10,000 hours and then you'll be success. No, but if you're an idiot and you wind people up and you're not nice to be around, you're not going to be successful in this business. Yeah. You can do 100,000 hours, but if you're still an idiot, you're still not going to get hired. So there's lots of things got to come together.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to dilute it down into bite-sized chunks. That's the nature of it. So it's like, I'm going to sing, I can walk, I'm going to this, I'm going to sing, I'm going to do makeup. I just need to do 10,000 hours, or I just need to win a TV show, or I just... No, you just need to do the graft and try and not be an idiot, and try and be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another conversation we were having online, where we're saying to people, look, you can have the talent, you can have the training and all this, but if you're sat at home in Newcastle waiting for the film industry to appear on your doorstep, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to get yourself to London or somewhere where the work is happening.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to bring you to them.
Yeah. I've seen posts on the 911 goes, I live in San Diego, and there's some good schools in LA, but I don't want to travel that far. And you're like, you'll be in a workshop with people who travelled from Brazil.
Yeah, no.
And they moved country to try and set up. And you go, I'm not being funny, but do you realise what you're up against? Because your competition is working harder than you. That's all I'm saying.
And this is it. If two people come to say, if someone kind of says, look, I'm here, and I'm local, I'm ready to go, and someone else with a similar thing comes, I'm here, I'm ready to go, but I live in Newcastle, so I'm going to need a couple of days' notice if you want me to come down. Who am I going with? I'm going with the person who is there on my doorstep.
Yeah.
But again, people don't, it's like they don't factor this in, or I think they just don't want to see it, or don't want to accept it. It's like, but can I, I see those posts going, is there anyone know any effects studios local to me where I can go and, get work experience? It's like, well, no. You're in the middle of nowhere, and no one puts an effects studio there because there's no industry there. Don't you understand this? Didn't you look that far ahead?
Yeah. It's tough.
I mean, it's not being brutal, it's just being honest. It's like, look, if you want to be in that career, be where the career is at, be where the industry's happening,
Yeah.
That's a pretty logical step.
Yeah. So if you want to sell popcorn, be where people are buying popcorn.
Popcorn. Come work in a cinema.
Demand I travel to Scotland on the top of a mountain if there's no cinemas there or whatever. Yeah, it's a weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
So it's hard. I mean, the hardest part these days is trying to explain things to people without sounding mean, isn't it? You get online and you kind of go, God, Dick Smith famously had no filter. Mm-hmm. People put Dick on a pedestal. He was an amazing guy, but
he had no truck for stupidity.
He couldn't deal with it. He had no filter, and he would just say when people were being stupid, and he'd be like, go away and do something else. And sadly, I think we need more of that these days, because I think there would be a lot of people who'd be saved from themselves. And
especially if they're really good at something else, and they're sort of not doing the world would be a poorer place if Einstein refused to go to maths lessons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be a fucking painter or something. Like, dude, seriously, we need the theory of relativity sorted out.
and the thing is, there is a. I mean, I know we're banging on, but we're banging on because you want good people. There's nothing, and I think to me, we both do teaching, and we both do a lot of this training, and we're both, I'd like to think we're both very good at it, and we both enjoy it. And for me, and I don't know what it is for you, but I'm guessing it's probably the same thing. There's something fantastic about meeting someone with the right attitude, who absorbs the information, who you can see grow, and then seeing them go off and do well. And there's a real wonderful thing about it. It's a human nature to want to. I mean, I'm passionate about what I do, so I want to share that. That is a very simple thing. People who are passionate about something usually want to share it. So we're lucky to be able to share it. We can go as far as standing on a bloody stage with hundreds of people and sticking on makeups and sharing that experience. That's a joy. That's a wonderful thing for me. I love every second of that. And the teaching and doing 911 or having those conversations, to see someone then go away and then come back and go, look what I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's magic. That's absolutely joyful.
But isn't it quite rare when you see that happen?
Well, it's kind of more rare now. This is what's getting frustrating. And even sometimes you see people who've got the talent. You go, that's fabulous. Why are you living where you're living? Why don't you get off your backside and come, oh, well, I can't really. I've just got to wait for someone to come and pluck me from obscurity. Well, they're not going to.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, I want to make it clear that I'm not sort of driving this in a way where I'm trying to denigrate people and make them feel bad. I'm doing this because the amount of people that you come across when you teach, you really want them to know this first before they get into it, because there's so much good stuff in it, but you've got to be prepared to grasp that nettle. And a lot of it is dealing with difficulty. And I see a lot of people who are broken by things that, say, for example, they're making something and they've made a mould and they open the mould breaks, and then they just fall apart.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
the world didn't go the way I wanted it to.
The mould broke, and that's a pain. But A, we can kind of fix it. But B, more importantly, let's focus on why it broke and how we stop that from happening. And there's more and more people where it feels like as soon as that breaks, that's it, they're done. And it's like, it's going to get shitter, trust me. When someone's paying you a lot of money to do something and something doesn't work, you don't get to just back out of this by crying. You've got to fucking figure it out.
And it still happens. You know, I've been doing this over 30 years. We broke a mould yesterday. We had a mould, we've got running pieces, and it's a collapsible core, and I probably pulled the base a bit thin. The guys were trying to put wedges in, and the crack appears. It happens. Yeah. That's it. What matters is what you do then.
Yeah.
Not kind of pointing the finger and going, who did this, or this was wrong, or that.
I'm shit. That's the other one. People just settle on that I'm terrible. Isn't it? No. How do we fix it? That's the thing.
Okay. How do we learn from this situation? How do we make it better next time? This is a new kind of mould I'm doing, so how do I make it better next time? How do we resolve the issue? And how do we get the job done? That's it. They're the only things, you know. Not sitting in the corner rocking and crying and going, "Oh, I'm rubbish." You know? Yeah. So yeah, you know, all that stuff is. That's all you want is people who are going to, just grab the bull by the horns. I found nowadays, and this is just something I'm seeing because I'm seeing more of that. I found probably I'm hiring more mature students, people who've come out who had a career before and then went back to uni or went to college or went and did a course like ours or Delamar or whoever, because you then at least you've got people who've got real world experience.
Yes.
And in a way sometimes you get people who are graduate, the lack of, I mean, it's like the CV thing. I always, people say to me, what do you want on a CV? I haven't got any films experience. And it's like, well, of course you haven't, because you're a student, I don't expect you to have Star Wars on your CV if you've been in education. Yeah. So what do I put on my CV? And I said, did you have a Saturday job? Oh, well, yeah, I worked in a shoe shop. Okay, what did you do? Did you... I would open up, I'd lock up, and I'd cash up. It's like, brilliant. Put that on a CV. And people are like,
responsibility.
Why? And it's that. It's like, because someone
trusted
thought you were intelligent enough and responsible enough to have that responsibility. And you did, how long were you there? Oh, I did it for 3 years. Fantastic. You lasted 3 years. You clearly weren't an idiot then. You did in a service industry, which can be tough. You get difficult customers, you get this is what we do. We deal with producers, directors, actors. All of them can have their attitudes, all can have their problems. All of this is problems to solve. And then you've got to be there on time, and you've got to wrap up on time, and you've got to clean up. So yeah, that 3 years doing the Saturday job in the shoe shop, to me, is far more valuable than 2 short films giving someone a bloody nose.
Yeah.
You know? I'm looking for the shoe shop experience. I want that on a CV. Yeah. I want you to work, you know, but it is. It's like, God, you've done something real. And a lot of people, you know, I find that preference now when I see someone come in and they're clearly a bit more mature. They've gone and done a degree. They've obviously followed their passion. They've probably thought about it more. Yeah. It's been a bigger step to do. And usually I find that they're the people who come out with a far more realistic attitude and just the ability to deal with the job a lot better. So yeah, I don't kind of exclude people, but the reality is they're just the people that I find myself gravitating more towards hiring and they work out really well.
Yeah.
You know? And I think they're just being more realistic because they've potentially spent 5 years working in a job they didn't like.
Yes, but that shows some kind of mettle and, you know, persistence. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And it's one of those things where a lot of colleges and a lot of makeup schools, they're coming straight out of school or it's their first time away and there's so many other things going on.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to figure themselves out, in all fairness. I totally understand. And it's a tough one, but it can get in the way of business. And it's like, I know, I just kind of want people to know that. It's like, well, it's a call to arms for competency, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I mean? I want people to be good at stuff, and sometimes you need to get over yourself before you can shut up and listen. And the amount of time, and I'm sure you're the same, I'm experiencing at the moment where you're pouring your soul out, and you'll do what you think is a really good rendition of something that matters. Yeah. And you see it, and it feels like showing a really good car trick to a fucking dog sometimes. like you poured your heart out, and either people are on their phone. I'm serious. People are on their phones. They didn't even notice, or 5 minutes later they'll ask you the thing that you just showed them. And it's like, for fuck's sake. Would you
attention
not?
span.
You know what I mean? And you've got to understand that no one's looking to hire. In any industry, nobody wants someone that doesn't give a fuck.
Well, the thing is, we haven't got the time or the money either.
No.
You know, it's interesting. We did a costing exercise, and we were looking at the prices. You know, what we were charging 10 years ago compared to what we're charging now. It's not much different. But that's the market forces. Everything else has gone up. Wages have gone up, material costs and everything. But you can't charge a lot more for the work. Because if you did, you'd be out of step with. And that's just an idea. You know, that's what happens. You know, if there's 5 of you doing one kind of thing in the industry, there's a certain level. As soon as there's 50 of you doing it, then those people have got a lot more choice and they can get at different prices and everything. So things change, and so to combat that, you just have to be adaptable, be smart, find different ways to work. Same with the education, you know. I mean, there weren't many places to choose to go and learn to do this. Most of it was private courses, like myself, or Delamar, as I say, or places like that. And I think the only colleges really were, you know...
Dawn-Crag?
Well, there was Dawn... Lord, back in the day, there was places like Dawn-Crag, which was... You're going back a very long time. Or, you know, London College of Fashion.
Yeah.
Obviously had a course. And then the others were like model making courses, weren't they? It was like Hatfield or wherever, and Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And that was it. But of course now you've got...
so much attention.
So many. And you've got massive choice, and it's fantastic. But... it's just changing the way it all works.
But it's still competency that people want. Like
absolutely, that doesn't change.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what
something else for God's sakes, because we're just so let's just moan for half an hour.
Let's talk about what, like, some very real world things people could do if they were interested in doing it. What they could do to get themselves. So let's assume you can't afford to go on a course. like you say, you've got all this stuff online, but you are one of the people that will watch the videos and learn.
Yeah.
Like, I got a couple of things I would suggest. One is, I think doing self-portraits would be good in clay.
Oh, that's
and
good
one exercise I would do is get a board and get a bag of clay and do a self-portrait. The reason it's self-portrait is because you'll always be there when you fucking do it, right?
Yeah.
So you have a lighter and a lump of clay, and you basically do your face and set yourself like half an hour. Do the best you can in half an hour. Take a photo of it. And at the end of that, rip it all up, put it back in the bag, and do it again tomorrow. And just do that every day for a month.
Yeah.
And then every day you're spending time. So that's 15 hours in total sculpting. And look at do a photo every day, and just see what your first portrait looks like and what your last portrait looks like. And you will see an improvement. It's cost you 20 quid for all the materials in a bag of clay. Do that, because it's virtually free.
We're still in the situation. There was someone I think posted in 911 actually yesterday, going, "I'm a tutor writing a course. Should I be ditching all this plaster and latex and stuff?"
Yeah, I saw that.
And digital. It's like, right, we still do. Just because the computers exist and you can do 3D modeling and printing doesn't mean we won't still use clay, plaster, latex, and all those things.
Use what's the right thing.
It's just another tool.
Yeah.
So it's another thing to learn, and there might be something, but, we've been effectively making prosthetics the same way since the 1930s. Wizard of Oz. It was a two-piece mould, it was plaster, foam latex, grease paint. The fundamentals are there. We've just found other materials and things to play with. So actually, if you go back to that, still plaster, clay, latex. Cheap as chips. And you can still do fantastic work with it. And we still do stuff like that.
Yeah.
We still use those processes. We still do a slush latex thing. We still make feet on creatures out of slush latex because
It's really durable.
it's super durable,
Light,
it's super quick,
hollow,
it's light.
cheap, quick, yeah.
And we need a plaster mould for that, and with sculpting clay. It's the same things. We're not throwing those techniques away.
Because the new stuff's come along, no, you use it as well. Because I had a job, I did a makeup test on Friday. During the makeup test, this happened this weekend. During the makeup test, something came through where they changed entirely what they wanted to do. And they were flying tomorrow. So I had to make pieces over the weekend. So I had to sculpt 7 pieces on the day. I ran them in silicone T20 that night. In the morning, I opened up and ran 2 sets of pieces. Now, if I was printing those moulds, even if there was a printer that would do it,
they wouldn't do it.
It would have been another 2 days before they were printed.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Assuming the printer didn't fuck up. So it's like, it has its place, but it doesn't sometimes.
And this is the thing, there is still a call. As I say, we model and print loads of stuff.
Yeah, so
we do
learn it, get a printer.
But we also do all the other stuff as well.
Yes.
We're not throwing that all away, and I can't see a reason to throw it all away. It's, as you say, I can sit with a bit of clay and I can make a wound, I can make a small piece, I can do a flat mold, things we couldn't do before that quick.
Yeah.
Now we can. They made it quicker. I can sculpt it. I can probably literally sculpt in 10 minutes a wound.
Yeah.
I can pour on the silicone. That will set up in 30 minutes. I can peel it off. I can cap plastic and have an appliance out in 2 hours easily.
Yeah.
Whereas before it would have taken longer. But it's still the same process. Clay, mould, cast.
Yeah.
And just tweaked.
Yeah, and it's not like you have an inventory of 8 things you're allowed to use.
Yeah.
If a new one comes in, you have to empty one out.
Yeah.
You just add more to your inventory, don't you?
So all of these things, all the what was the point of this conversation? I can't even
It was
remember the
basically, I was
beginning.
trying to say, what is it that people can do in a real world sense? What can people do right now to start eating into doing this?
So the point is that we still need the fundamentals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're saying, even digital modelling, digital sculpture.
Still sculpting.
It's still sculpture.
Yeah.
I did my first digital sculptures and people going, wow. And it's like, yeah, I'm awful at the software, but I'm a sculptor.
Yeah, I know what it should look like.
So my sculpture looks better than someone who knows the software and has learned the software for years.
Yes.
But isn't a sculptor.
Yeah, it's like having a really good typist that can't think of plots.
Yeah.
It's like they're not going to produce good novels. They'll type it in fucking 80 words a minute.
The spacing will be lovely.
It'll be perfect, yeah, but the story's shit. It's
simple as that. So you still need those skills. So basically you still need to... So fine. I mean, a couple of things. One, you can do the practical thing. You can get a lump of clay, as you say. A bag of pottery clay is, what, tenner? 15 quid?
Yeah.
Nearly any town, you will find a pottery supply, or any big town. You know, you look up potteries and pottery supplies, and you will usually find somewhere you can go.
Smooth grey clay, yeah.
Smooth, buff body, grey, but done.
Yeah.
And that's it. You could build an entire portfolio just with sculptures.
Yeah.
Board, I mean, that most basic latex mask, you know, take a board,
Yeah.
or screw a block in the middle, sculpt faces, half a face. It's not even multi-piece mould, it's half a face.
Yeah.
Make a plaster mould, cast the latex out, and paint it. Done. There's people who get hired just on those things.
Yeah.
And you can make one of those 15 quid for a bag of clay, 20 quid for a bag of plaster. Depends how much latex you want. I mean, latex tends to go for about a tenner a litre.
Yeah. But if you're going to make a bunch of these things, you know, you'll use this a lot, you know.
And you'll buy a big thing. So for under 100 quid, you could probably produce 20 masks and learn a ton.
Yeah.
But I see it straight away. People are buying silicone, trying to do multi-piece molds. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah. They don't know why they're doing it.
No.
Why do we do this?
Just sculpt something. For God's sake,
yeah,
sculpt
yeah.
something, and then sculpt another thing and another thing. And we do come back to the 10,000 hours then, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Your first sculpture will be terrible. Your second sculpture will also be terrible. Probably your fifth will be pretty shoddy too. By the time you're up to 10, 20 sculptures, you start making a bit of headway.
Yeah.
You start watching again, let's go to YouTube, but let's watch good ones. You know, it's very hard to put a YouTube tutorial up of bad sculpture.
Yeah.
I don't think I've not got...
No, you look at someone really good, like Philip Farrow
Philip
stuff.
Farrow, I was about to say
Emilia,
Philip Farrow.
Or Emilia Rowcroft stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, there's stuff out there, and they've got, you know,
and you
books
can go
and stuff
on,
and
and you
courses.
can get the basics, and you can follow them, and see how they're doing it, and you can make your own tools, or make that, and suddenly you're doing it. Mm-hmm. The thing, though, is that most people look at that and go, well, that looks a bit hard, and it looks a bit boring. I'll go over here with this Coke can and a bit of blood. That looks like a laugh.
Yeah.
That's
That's the thing, isn't it?
Okay, it is a laugh. It is a laugh. You'll have fun. It'll be a hoot. You'll never get a job.
No.
But see this sculpture, and if you do that portrait, and if you work that out, there's a much better chance of getting a job. And this is the problem. We're battling against the people who see what they think the industry is.
Yeah.
They think it's that.
Yeah.
They don't realise it's actually people making moulds and working out technical problems and doing all this stuff. You know, I start lectures by explaining that, you know, most of the work, you know, we can spend 6 weeks working flat out doing moulds and casts and all this stuff for one day on set with the makeup. So the bit you think is the job, which is gluing something to someone's face, is actually might be 1/60th of my work.
Yeah.
But that's the bit you see, and that's the bit you think the job is.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Yeah. And it's that thing, especially with like good prosthetic work. It's all the stuff you don't see. It's like it's hiding in plain sight. Like a basic thing, like a cut throat or something. Like you want people to see the cut, you want people to see the blood. What you don't want them to see is the the 60 inches of edge.
Yeah.
The piece is made up of, and all the
and-
overlaps, and the fact that it's the right colour for the skin, and all that effort. It's really hard to make something look perfectly real.
I'm astonished. I'm constantly astonished. Given the amount of people doing it, you would expect the craft to have progressed. And I think we had an era 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where we had this real accelerated technical advancement. The silicones, the silicone appliances, and you went from stuff that looked like old age makeups to stuff that looked like real faces. The stuff that literally can pass for real in person, which is phenomenal. when I started in the industry, nothing could pass for real in person. You knew it all looked
You were
like
doing a lot of
grease
the gelatine
Yeah.
makeups, weren't you? All those kind
Yeah.
of like fake over celebrity things. They had to look real.
Yeah.
And that was something that those kinds of programs weren't getting, like, you know, Oscar attention, but they had to look real to the eye, which is quite a tall order.
And what they did was make us think differently, because suddenly there's a kind of TV show that is now, was unusual.
Yeah.
There's a kind of approach, and there was just stuff you had to do, and you learned fast. But also, I just think that the bringing in the silicones and that, and we went from lots of two-piece moulds or fiberglass moulds and foam running, and we invented a whole new technology. And now we've got different epoxies and the PUs, and we're making these pieces. And it was a complete reinvention for a while, and then I honestly think we've kind of hit brick wall. All we seem to have is lots more people doing the same thing.
Yeah. When I was expanding it,
But they're not even doing that further. It's almost like it's taken a little step back, and because really, 20 years ago, no one was doing anything in wax, right? Now, there's people. The internet's full of people slapping wax on their face.
Yeah.
Sales of wax have rocketed.
Weirdly, because you think surely,
But it was something we'd all forgotten about.
Yeah.
We kept a little pot in a corner in case you just had to patch something,
yeah.
right? You would never even think about actually doing a makeup with it.
But the internet's probably pushed that because it's very attainable and you don't need moulds, and it's an attractive prospect, isn't it?
And it looks like what people think makeup is, which is you paste it on the face.
Yeah. But,
So in a way, I think we're kind of stuck at the moment. I'm waiting for something exciting to happen. And
if you can feel it, you think something will.
Well, I don't
come from somewhere you weren't expecting and be like, oh.
Potentially, I think there might be. I think the thing that will change, if we move off and down another avenue now, if we're talking about the future of the industry, people are talking about print molds and everything. I don't think that's particularly anything exceptional.
No, because also it's just a new
it's just a
technology doing an old thing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah. It's
It's
like
just
laser
that
cutting swords instead of...
it's cutting out by hand.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're still got
fine.
swords.
I've got a new
Yeah.
tool that does it.
Yeah.
That's not a massive advance to me. That's not really changing anything. You're still going, well, you printed the mould, yeah, but you still spray the cap plastic and pour the silicone in and squish it, or inject it. That's effectively still going back to what they were doing on The Wizard of Oz. It's not. There's nothing exceptional there. There's nothing new. The whole silicone thing transformed, obviously. It's a whole new material and how we work with that, and then finding that we can do so much with flat moulds. And so there was a big shift there. And what was great was it made things much more accessible, much easier. But actually, printing moulds isn't easier.
First you can learn how to sculpt digitally, and
then work out all the logistics of that, and then have printers. It's actually much harder.
Yeah.
So,
well, especially if you already do it traditionally. I think.
Yeah. So that's not really a massive advance. That's just another bit of kit, which once it all settles down, it will probably work out fine. No, I think the big change is going to be the materials.
Yeah.
Because we're still dealing with loads of stuff that kills you.
Yeah.
We're still spraying acetone and all that,
Yeah.
So I think it's somewhere someone's going to crack. And they're already doing gels, which are Sawyer and, like alginate-based gels and things like that, which someone's going to come up with a gel system that is all organic. We're going to get something like that.
Biodegradable and reusable.
Yeah, all of that kind of thing. There will be somewhere between gelatin and silicon, and there will be something that will happen. So I think it's going to be a material shift that's going to give us other options. It will also be the same process. I can't see us changing the process.
Yeah.
That process, that live cast, sculpt, mould, it's been identical for 90 years. when you think about it.
Yeah.
Literally identical for 90 years. So what can we do different?
Digital.
Well, is it CGI? But again, it's that bringing together CGI and what we do comes together so much more. You know, in the workshop we got that. We 3D model and we switch files with the digital people, and we, you know.
Yeah,
I think that's natural progression.
And it's quite amazing how many people think stuff is digital where it's like practical, but also the sensibility of stuff that's digital. I mean, I'm trying to think of people like Martin Rizard, you know, who sculpts a lot of stuff digital, but he's bringing with it that sensibility of clay. It's still sculpting. It's still
that's
rendering
why the early days of CGI was so terrible, was because they weren't using sculptors. They were using people who were
the software,
computer nerds who knew the software but couldn't sculpt for shit, basically. So they might know how to do the software, or they couldn't animate. I mean, that's why Jurassic Park was the thing that made Jurassic Park was Phil Tippett.
Yes,
because he was an animator.
Yes,
so he brought animator sensibilities to it, and he made the system so that animators could animate, because he knew all the people doing all the computers were geniuses, but they didn't make dinosaurs run around.
Yeah,
you needed these kind of boffins who sit in dark rooms and like to move little clay models of dinosaurs a millimetre at a time. And got excited by that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that comes back in a way to the whole makeup thing. Like when you do a makeup and you look at some really nice subtle makeup stuff, it's the nuance that's very hard to describe that tips it into the real.
You've got to really. I mean, it's the stuff you can't teach, you know. And we try and have that conversation, explain. I try and have that, and explain to people what I'm looking at and what's going on in my head when I'm thinking it. You can't. There's that last 10% that you just can't put you can't put it in a textbook. You can't write it down. You can't explain it. And I'm there with very experienced professionals who are trying to copy what I'm doing, and they can't quite, because, you know, it's instinctive. It's intuitive. And you know, there's just an element that you can't put words to. So yeah, for me, there's always going to be that kind of skill to it, and it's interesting. I find I'm always fascinated by the teaching of things and the process of teaching. It
really makes you examine why you do the things you do, and people ask you questions that you wouldn't even fucking expect that to come at you as well, which I think is quite nice.
Well, I explain to people that it's great to go off and teach, because it's exactly that. You then find yourself having to explain why you do something.
Yeah.
So if you're an artist, if you're a technical person or whatever, you might happily sit in a corner doing your work all day long and never analyse why you do what you do. Why do I do that particular thing with the clay? Why do I use that tool? While you're doing it, you don't think that. But when you have to teach it, when you have to explain it, you do. You dismantle, you examine your process so much good. So for me, my makeup got better.
Yes, because you really picked it apart.
Because suddenly I was analysing. Because for me to explain to someone else, I have to analyse it. So I've got to stop and think, why do I use those colours? Why do I sculpt it that way? What? And suddenly it opens up a whole thing. So the teaching for me has been it just goes hand in hand with the process.
Yourself, don't you?
It's phenomenal. It's been I love it. I absolutely love it. I love that process, and I love that discovery, because just as much as people who are learning from me are discovering, I'm discovering, and it's that great joy. You know, we're always learning.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning things, and even when I'm teaching, I'm learning things, and sometimes I'm literally explaining something, thinking, I never thought of that. I never thought of why I did that. And now that I say it, I suddenly go, aha. And also, that's opened up other possibilities. I've become... it's like with sculpture. I think my sculpture's improved because I've taken an interest in psychology. Because of how we see. which also goes hand in hand with doing disguise makeups and things like that. Because how people see and the mechanisms for seeing and how we process things feeds back into sculpture, because it's that thing, I'd say to students, it's like I can put a life cast there and give you a lump of clay, and the amount of you who trying to copy that life cast, you can stand there with calipers, you can do everything, and you still do a crap job. Why? And it's because your brain has certain kind of ways it processes information. So to be good at sculpture, I think anyone can be a sculptor. I genuinely think that. You've just got to overcome certain presets, and if you can get past those things, if you can look at something, I'd say it's like, don't look at an ear, don't look at a nose. What you do is look at the forms and look at the geometry. If I ask you to make a cube, you can make a cube because it's numbers, it's equilaterals, equal sides, equal faces, equal that, it's a cube. Any idiot can produce a cube. But then if I put a nose there and say sculpt the nose, suddenly you can't do it. And it's because you called it a nose. And now it's a part of a feature of a face and all of that. And a nose means different things to different people. But a cube doesn't. A cube is just a cube.
Right, and in terms of form, you can break something down into...
And I can break that down into measurements and angles. So if you break down a feature into measurements and angles, now... Stop calling it a nose, call it by its measurements and angles. Now you can produce it. So if you ask a guy to reproduce any mechanical shape, he can probably do it.
Yes.
But the minute you go do a nose, it's a problem.
It's weird, it's a very good point.
And there's and so as soon as you start working with those kind of ways of doing it, you learn it's how you process information.
Yes.
There's just lots of clever tricks you can do. So now I'm obsessed now. I'm totally into kind of psychology.
That's a really good point.
Because so much of what we do and how we achieve is about having the right process going on. And then understanding the things we do so many things that we don't think about, and we're just trained to do. We're just built to do. So as soon as you can start adapting that, now you can learn new things. That's what most of the blockage is. In learning a new thing, or learning to do sculpture, or learning to paint.
I think that's what's hard when people are starting out when they do stuff, because if it goes wrong or it doesn't feel like it's going well, it doesn't reward you. You don't get that. What's that hormone? You don't get that kind of surge.
It's like when you're in the gym and you get the...
you don't get that.
What the hell is that called?
It's an endorphin rush.
Endorphins, that's it.
It's like, so when people sculpt, and you know what it's like, you sculpt something that goes really well, or it looks good enough in the time you've got, you've only got an hour.
You get a buzz.
You get a little buzz out of it. And
you get all fluffed up and all excited.
So, but the absence of that, maybe at the beginning, can be quite hard to take. But like you say, it's sort of catching yourself going, oh, this is because my reward mechanism isn't being met, so it's making me feel this way, and it's not unique to you. It's just you're only able to experience your feelings, so you think you're the only one that feels that way, but actually, secretly, everyone's feeling their own personal hell. I find that a lot, mainly in makeup schools. It's not you, it's just fucking hard to sculpt. It's not you personally. Do you know what I mean?
But I start everything going, right, we're going to do a sculpting exercise, and you will all be shit. I mean, and it's not, I'm not being rude. You just will be, because you know what? I was too. My first sculptures were awful. They were terrible. I was not a natural sculptor. The stuff I was doing, even when I was starting in the industry and at 20 and 22 and 25, I don't think I started pumping out a decent sculpture until I was in my 30s. Genuinely, I can show you pictures, stuff I've done, and go, look at that. God, what was I thinking? That was awful, that form stuff. It's the 10,000 hours thing, it's this, it's that. But it's also, it's training your brain. I'm much better sculptor now because I broke it down differently. I analysed it in a way that was, because people get into this, they get obsessed about innate ability, the idea you're born with ability. And some people aren't. Whether you're Beethoven at 3 years old knocking out a concerto, or Salvador Dali or Picasso, who could draw a perfect circle. Was it Dali or Picasso could draw a perfect circle at the age of 4 and
got bored from it on.
So some people it is, they're just wired that way, and that's great. But most people aren't, and then you've got to find the way to work, and sometimes it works through just repetition. But that can only go so far. But the minute you understand how your brain works, suddenly it's a revelation. You can suddenly see things so much better because you naturally put blockages there. Your brain just doesn't take information. It doesn't take all the information in. It's not interested. I say to students, like, look, here's the thing. You probably came in this morning, you might have stopped at a shop, bought a packet of chewing gum. Now, if I ask you what the person in the shop looks like, you might go, female, young, dark hair, you might get some of it.
Things,
but when you go back and look, you might go, oh, young, and then you go back and find that they're actually in their late 40s. And suddenly there's like key things you're getting wrong because you just don't take that information in, and it's there's another one which is like, right, draw a horse. Without having a picture for it, draw a horse. Every day of your life, you probably see a horse. You see a horse motif, you see a horse silhouette. You go past the field, there's a horse. You watch commercials, there's Lloyd's Bank, there's a horse. Everywhere there's a horse. Now draw a horse. And you'll get something that's sort of like a horse.
You go to the bank to find the information in your head and it's not there.
Because your brain doesn't need it. It's not interested in holding on to all the detail of what a horse looks like.
Yeah.
But it's got enough so that you've got just enough information so that when you see it, you're not going, is that a llama? Is that a camel?
Yeah,
will
it
that
kill
a
me?
No, it's a horse.
Yeah,
I know the things that say horse.
Yeah.
I've ticked the mane, tick, tail, tick. I've ticked all the boxes. That's a horse.
Yeah.
But you can't construct one from memory.
Yeah.
And that's because your memory just does not work that way, but that's why we like cartoons. That's why Disney is so successful, because it's broad strokes. It's simple shapes. And it picks a character with big eyes or evil brow or big chin. They tell simple stories that we are designed.
Those simple broad strokes. But when you're responsible for constructing something of great detail, you are burdened with knowing
stuffed.
that. You've got to feed it. You've got to look to say, you're right.
So you struggle then. So when you look at that face, the problem is your brain goes face, it goes nose, and it just does a thing with 2 holes in it.
Yeah, and you'll do the same thing. You'll
so
draw
when
your
you try and
ears the same
sculpt
way.
it, So when you try and sculpt it, your brain's telling your hands to just put a blob and 2 holes.
Yeah.
But the nose that you're trying to sculpt looks nothing like it.
Yeah.
I do a drawing of a pig. It's just a circle with 2 points. And I do that. I do the circle with the 2 point ears. And I go, what's that? And some people go, it's a cat. Some people go, it's a pig. Some people go... And then I'll do 2, and I'll do 1 with the circle and do the pig's nose. And it's a pig. But then you've got the same shape, and then you put the little Y shape dots and do a cat.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the absolute minimum information, but you absolutely definitely know that one's a cat and know that one's a pig.
Yeah.
But neither of them look anything like the real animal.
Pig. Yeah.
That's the irony. But your brain just has some very simple...
Yeah, it has
and
a low resolution everything.
And that's it. It has a low resolution image of everything. So when you come to do a sculpture, it's telling you to do the low resolution image.
Yeah.
And even though the damn thing's there, you can't do it next to it.
Yeah.
But if you go, forget it, now turn it into a cube, now turn it into a triangle. Oh, I can do cubes and triangles.
Yeah. So it's just a higher resolution cube, isn't it? Made up of lots of little
And now we just learn to do the measures and the shapes, and now you can do it. You break it down. So there's a whole thing with that. Is when you get into that, there's a whole rabbit hole to go down with the psychology of how you see, how you process that information,
really
how you see beyond that information.
Is there a good book or a book or something you recommend on that?
It's kind of put together from a bunch of things. I can suggest some. But the main... I tell you what, I've got it here. Audio, I love audio books.
Oh man, I've been listening to it, yeah.
Long
drives are brilliant.
Long drives and sculpting. I can't sculpt to music because I get the pace of the music. So if you got kind of fast music going, I feel like I've got to sculpt fast. So there's oh god, Your Deceptive Mind. This is very good. So Steve Novella.
Your Deceptive Mind.
Yeah, and this is the great courses. He's done another one as well. It's just very interesting. It covers a broad range of things. It covers a lot about critical thought.
That's perfect.
So that's a really good one. It's a more general, but it does deal with how we see, how we process information. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just a very, very good one. This is a great book that's got to be, people should look at.
Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's the principle of how we deal with problem solving, and how we the core of it. It goes off into a bunch of different areas, but the core of it is the fact that in aviation, the reason why, everyone says that, and it's absolutely true, that you can get on, to fly is so much safer than driving and such like, is because in aviation there's a bunch of rules that have been put in place, which is how problems are reported and how they're addressed. And basically there isn't people putting up their hand and going, I've made a mistake, or this issue happened, don't get kind of hauled over the coals for it.
Right. Because if they do, they wouldn't report them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so in aviation, you can't do that. Everything has to be high, because basically one tiny problem can kill hundreds of people in one stroke. Yeah. So aviation industry as a whole has always had this attitude, which is much more open to dealing with problems and issues and addressing them, which is why its safety record and even how planes work and everything is so much better. But then it talks about the medical world and how surgeons and consultants cover things up. And there's all that, don't talk about, and there's payouts for litigation, all that kind of stuff.
And it damages the progress.
And that's it. And it stops progress. And you kind of go, why is it that aviation is such a phenomenal record, but medical world is a disaster? And then it applies that thinking to everything. But it's how to be self-critical. It's how to basically go, look, we are human nature. You want to kind of point fingers, and you don't want to take blame for mistakes. But actually, the best thing you can do is make mistakes and analyse them.
Right.
Which is what we do all the time, and which is why I kind of like it, because we're there. You make a mould, and if the piece doesn't come out, the first thing you go in is you don't stomp off and cry and get upset. You go, why didn't it come out? What was wrong? Yeah. Oh, look, there's a lock. I got an undercut. Damn. I will avoid that in future.
Yeah.
Or why is the plastic sticking? Why is this happening? It's all that analysis. Now I've put these kind of keys and they're not locking well. I'll use a different key next time. All that self-analysis is how we improve our work, and we're used to doing it. You and I, that's human nature. That's normal to us. Mm-hmm. That's why we're good at making molds, and we're good at solving problems.
The generation nowadays, they're sort of trained for the test. It's not the kids' fault so much as the framework in which they've been brought up. Everything's to avoid error.
And it's people being defensive.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it wasn't my fault. I'm not saying it's your fault. There will always be a problem. The mould will always break. There will always be. We're making a new thing. Every time we create something, we're creating a prototype. So all you can do is try and make a better prototype next time. So when someone comes up and something goes wrong, you don't hide it. You be open about it and you discuss it, because that's how we make it better next time. But if you hide it, if you disguise it, if you brush it under the carpet, It's hard, and it's hard sometimes. You know, I mean, it's a hard culture to get into. I mean, we try and do it like with the prosthetic event, for example. You get to the end, and we're all exhausted, but come Tuesday, you know, we dropped all the kit back and dropped the vans off, and we sit and we have a sit around a table, and it's always difficult because it's an emotional time. Everyone's building up for months. It's been a huge process, and everyone's lots of drive and lots of hours, very exhausted, and then you've got to sit there and go, what went wrong? And talk about all the things that went wrong, which feels like something you don't want to do. It's the last thing you want to do. You want to run around. You either want to just sit back and go, thank God that's over, or, you know, be joyous or be whatever. What you don't want to do is have someone go, well, why did that go wrong? But it's not to point fingers. It's to go, well, look, the best time to address this is in the very immediate aftermath.
Yes.
Because a month down the line, we'll have forgotten it all.
Yeah.
It will be rose-tinted spectacles, and we all think we did a fabulous job and completely forget about...
neglect the things that would actually help us have a good time.
So we've got to just have that conversation, and it's not about apportioning blame. It's about going, right, what didn't work? Let's make a note now that next year we need more barriers. That next year we need to widen the aisles. Next year we need to... all of those things. And it's a hard culture to do. It's very easy to avoid it. No one wants to do it.
But again, it's grasping that nettle. It's the people that are prepared to go through that work, and it is work. That's where your improvements will come from.
And, you know, anyone who steps up to me and says, you know what, I did this, it's gone pear-shaped, I think this is why I'm trying to work this out, I will support, I will get behind. It's the person who goes, well, that went wrong, but it's not my fault. For God's sakes, that's not the... No one's going to kill you for it. No one's going to... Just let's understand why. We'll all get together, we'll make it work, but let's make sure we understand why, because if we understand why, then we won't repeat the mistake. You know, and the worst thing is a mistake that gets repeated and a problem that gets repeated. So it just, it's taking those things, and it does. You know, Millennium's a big machine. You know, that goes wrong all the time. You know, but if there's things that could be sorted, you just ignore.
It's going to come back.
Or is it going to keep going wrong? You know, so it's a process of constantly the event, the magazine, whatever it is. We take it apart, we think about it, and we try and make it work better next time. So let's be honest, face it. And there's a bunch of... I mean, I love all these... You know, there's a lot of these books around. What I find interesting is you get some of these things. They all tend to have one idea at their core. And they're building an entire book around that one idea. And you go, like the 10,000 hours, and you go, well, that isn't the whole story. You know, your life isn't what... everything is far more complex than that. So that's one thing. But you need all these other things. So you need a little bit of everything to make it work. So these books, but you can see that the publishing house has gone, no, we need one idea. You need to put this one idea. You need to write about this one idea. It's like, it doesn't work.
It's very nuanced.
Life isn't that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
You just kind of take from it what you can and just keep building on it.
Yeah.
Having an interest in those things.
So again, a similar one, Turn the Ship Around. This was a Navy guy. True stories of turning followers into leaders, you know, and it was the same thing. Went onto a submarine that had the worst crew and turned them all into the best by being, you know, honest with each other. There's another one which is called Radical Candor, I think.
Oh, right.
Which is, I think it was a lady she was one of the management team at Netflix. And again, they have a very kind of a system whereby everyone is really brutally honest with each other in the boardroom. Not in an offensive way, but they have to be really blunt. You know, so I suppose Dick Smith was radical candor. But it works, you know, it's just getting that message across and getting those ideas across. It's those things, people stick to ideas sometimes and they can't shake them off, and it's the ability to be flexible and to run through ideas and to adopt an idea, try it, and recognise when it doesn't work. And so many people are stuck in their ways. And I think it was the Challenger disaster. There's a whole thing about how when they went through everything and worked it all out, they realised that really, when you come down to the one thing that was the turning point, it was just a very bad PowerPoint presentation. And what was happening was, they saw the thing, the shot go, the big lump of foam, hit the shuttle, took off tiles, it's up there, they can't look at it, they're running tests, and they basically could put it out to all these various engineers and said, just work out, do you think it's safe to bring it back? Do you think that the potential for the damage? And basically, a couple of engineers did a PowerPoint presentation, which they thought put across the point that it was a very bad idea to bring it back.
Shit.
And you can find this online.
I didn't realise that was the thing. So it got up there, it was coming back down.
You've got the Challenger in Colombia. There was one that blew up, taken off, and one that broke up coming in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, terrible. Can't remember which was which. But this is the one where the re-entry was
coming back in,
the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that was the Columbia. Let's see. Yeah, it was the Columbia. It was the Columbia. So the Columbia, it had basically that big lump of foam broke off as it was going up, hit the underside, damaged tiles. So as it re-entered, the heat built up and it burned through and the ship broke apart. So yeah, they had a bunch of engineers trying to work out whether it was safe to do re-entry. And basically, and you can find that, you can even find the PowerPoint presentation. And it was just how it was presented. So the headline didn't say, whatever you do, don't do re-entry. That was like 0.7 in small things at the bottom. So human nature is to take in headlines. And we see that every day online, You look at Facebook, people are going, reacting to things. And it's like, did you read it? No. You've just taken the headline.
Yes.
Lots of people, lots of turnover, different presentations. PowerPoint's terrible, I think Jeff Bezos has banned PowerPoint. They don't allow PowerPoint to happen because it is an awful tool. It doesn't.
It's not intuitive. No.
It doesn't convey anything. So instead, these two guys are like clicking a button, presenting information, and the final thing is this and this, and really the pertinent information is very small at the bottom.
Yeah.
And actually, it should be in the headline, which is, for God's sakes, don't attempt re-entry. But in their minds, they've conveyed the information. To everyone in the room, there was some other words there which basically said, it's a low risk. So ultimately, they said, yeah. And that's what happened. And literally, it was a very... And the problem is, these guys are engineers. They're not PowerPoint presentation people.
Yeah, they don't understand how people think or how they're going to receive the information.
And actually, really, what you're looking at is graphic design.
Yes.
How do you put that information into, effectively, a poster?
Yes.
They're not trained to be graphic designers.
Yeah,
They're engineers.
This is why having multidisciplinary teams is good, isn't it? Because someone goes... It looks great, but as a layman, I didn't understand any of that. So, and I am your customer, so...
So the point being is like, no, you've got to just get... We get wrapped up in so many of these things. So people hide behind a presentation or hide behind... And I've sat there at presentation things just thinking, just tell me the information. Why are we doing this? It's terrible. This isn't... We're not engaging. So yeah, I'm fascinated by all these processes because I just think that, trying to run a business, trying to do what is a complicated job, so much of it is about transmitting ideas, transmitting that process, learning to think, So, for me, that's my job. My job is to look into these things, to understand how better to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Because the better we communicate, the better the job will be. You know, and we've got these fabulous communication tools. We've got the internet. We've got podcasts.
We need to improve ourselves now
Yes.
at communicating. We have the
Yes.
devices.
Yeah,
We need
this is
to
it.
better at transmitting.
And so I'm always fascinated just how poorly some people are still doing this when all that information is so rich. But sometimes it's because people can't now differentiate between what's the good information and the bad information.
Yeah, it's just well presented.
Because they're watching, that YouTube channel was cool. So
Yeah.
I'll say that's the thing that's the authority. And actually the authority is the guy doing the awful video, but his information is good.
Yes, they can't distinguish between it's the presentation is seen, not the information itself. It's a tough one. Okay, so we're slightly back to a couple of things. So if I'm a student or I want to do more stuff, let's try and think of 3 things. So we said the portrait things, something you could do, the portrait thing in clay, making the masks, like some clay plaster, slip latex masks.
Yep.
You'll come across all the moulding issues and things in a safe way
And
for not a lot of money.
And the other one is very basic highlight and shadow down.
Yeah, just a palette,
You
grease
know,
paint palette.
grease paint palette. Rick Baker was doing it. He was going off doing those things with Mag, doing the face paint, effectively face painting.
Yeah.
But basically, that is, understanding form, the face, and how to change the face, doing it with just highlight and shadow.
Yeah.
Again, people are already dolloping wax on there, and it's like, no, you don't even know where you're putting it, you don't know what you're trying to achieve. His basic anatomy, I know it's scary to say anatomy, so people go, oh my god, it sounds like, I've got to learn medicine now.
That's the thing, you don't have to memorise.
So it's just, take some black, take some white, and look in a mirror and look at the shadow.
all that classic
That's
stuff.
it. Just pick out the basics and understand how this form, this shape works, and that adding very simple things can change it. And actually, you learn the forms. You learn the forms by just studying your face and painting it. And I did that as a kid. I had basic grease paint. Well, that's all I did. Sit in the mirror.
Yeah, Super Colour
paint the
B
face.
palette from Krylon.
Yeah,
12
That's it.
colours and a brush, and you're away.
You're away, and you would spend hours, and the thing is, people are still doing the same thing. They're just filming it and putting it on YouTube now.
Yeah.
We just didn't film it, So you just got to try that, and the bag of clay and a bit of latex. Whole careers have been built on that.
And ultimately, that's all you'd go from there is like more refined, more sophisticated versions of those things.
And this is the thing,
aren't they?
you don't need all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, there are guys who do the latex masks, but they do them brilliantly.
Yeah.
And they do great sculpts. They're basically a very good sculpture. It's just clay, a plaster mould, and a latex mask, and a great paint job.
Yeah.
But it's all the cheapest thing. It's latex plaster and a bit of acrylic paint.
Yeah. It's how you do it, and that really presents you with.
But they've
if it
mastered
looks
it.
crap, it's because you've done it wrong. It's not because
This is it.
Do you know what I mean? You don't need to spend a lot of money to find
Master
that out.
that. Once you've mastered that, you can spin off into the technical stuff after.
Yeah.
But if you can just take a lump of clay and make it look cool, make a simple plaster mould, and
Yeah.
after that, everything is, you're just learning. Yeah, you're learning more technical stuff. But if you can just do the basic, but it goes back to ZBrush and Photoshop and all those. They're fabulous, amazing tools to do phenomenal things. But if you can't draw, or you can't sculpt to begin with, you're a non-starter. So start at the beginning, and the beginning is clay, plaster, latex.
Sounds like a good place to stop. Thanks, man. That's been brilliant.
That was the most ranty, ravey. Oh God!
We had a really good chat.
He's a bit gruff.
Yeah, but do you know, it's so weird. We were chatting and you realise just how long we've known each other, and we figured out, I think it's, I started in 96, so it's nearly 25 years. I was like, I realised that while we were chatting, and it was like, holy shit, there are people in my class today that were younger than that. And I was like, that's amazing. It's just, it's mind-blowing. But, huge amount of respect.
Yeah, we met in 2004, and then I was looking through some old photographs from, when I went up to Chesham when he still had the shop in Chesham. After IMATS in 2009, that's actually when we got to know each other.
Yes,
bouncing
you were
around
working on your book.
Bouncing around in the back of that van on the way from London.
Yeah, Serena's van.
Back up to Chesham.
Yeah, that's right. And you got a picture of you wearing a Cyberman helmet. It does really cool things, haven't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing
All the Doctor Who stuff.
A lot of new people coming in. They were just new kids on the scene. So
literally,
it's always the way, though, isn't it? If you look at the image animation stuff, they're all very, very young. These young whippersnappers with their good ideas. And yet, they're normally the ones that will grasp the nettle and do the difficult stuff. That's the thing. Because it is difficult, a lot of this stuff. So, the people that thrive under that kind of... nobody wants stuff to be difficult, but, people that just kind of throw their hands up and walk away.
I think just that it's the nature of the craft pretty much mandates that some of it is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Well, because it is. But you could hardly do better than learning how to do it from Neill.
True enough. And he's very good at, pointing out, and he's got a very good streamline kind of technique at, pointing out certain methods and things, which, we discussed in the chat.
Well, he's very good at explaining not just the how, but the why.
Yeah. Yeah,
which,
exactly.
In my mind, the why is maybe more important than the how, because there's a half dozen ways to do everything.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And why you do it a certain way instead of another way is what leads to those light bulb moments.
Yeah, kind of couches it in a context, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Alrighty. Well, I guess that wraps this one up. I just say please check out our website, battleswithbitsofrubber.com. Have a look. We have a merch store.
And we have a merch store on the website. We also have a Teespring store if you're into that stuff. Battles merch and Flat Mold Society. I
will put the links to that on the show notes. And like Todd said as well, if you have any suggestions for tutorials you'd like to see on the YouTube, I mean, I'm going to do some anyway, but it'd be really handy if they were things that people actually wanted to see. Just email us at stuartandtodd@gmail.com or get in touch through our Facebook group, I guess is easy, or message us on Instagram.
Or Instagram. Yeah.
Superb. So what are you up to now? You got a busy... You're going to be working on that print thing later, or is that just going to be taken away all day?
Yeah, I'm going to just finished printing that part now, so I'll pop that off the bed and get the last piece of it going. I have a rather large order of Pro Bond primer I have to prep and get out to Reynolds Advanced Materials. Formerly the engineer guy in Atlanta. They just put in a rather large order, which I'm thrilled for, that people are using it and gonna not be completely broke during this self-imposed hiatus.
Everything helps. Cool. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the house now because it's late. I'm going to watch a little bit of TV. I'm going to go see that cat. It's probably tripping balls still. He was in the corner of the room just looking at stuff that wasn't there because he's ripped on opioids after his surgery. Yeah, it's quite funny watching him. He's very affectionate though. He's kind of like a drunk guy at the bar. Like, you're my best friend.
Oh, give him a little chin scritch for me.
He's very sweet. But hopefully he'll wake up in the morning, won't be too bad. He's got some stitches in there which are going to melt away over time. But
I imagine once the drugs wear off and he's just feeling the discomfort, he's going to not be a real pleasant fellow.
Maybe not. Enjoy it while you can. There we go. Anyway, that's 450 quid. Yeah. I'm sure that the vet did a great job, though. I can't grumble, but it's just like,
Oh, he's worth it.
He is. It's just, it just really stung. It was just like, wow. You notice a fang missing, and then suddenly you're like, wow, that's a big chunk of change. But got to do it. So there we go. Anyway, hopefully we'll see how the things go. If the world is still working, we'll be back. Well, we've got a couple in the can. You've done a fantastic interview, which I'm going to put up in the next few days after this one. With Jackie and Brandon.
It's another viewpoint of education.
Yeah. And then and then we'll get stuck into some of our not interview ones, just you and me going through some subject matter and actually getting to the bottom of some things, because there's a few subjects, like a big one that's come up a few times is, how do you get work in an effects studio? What's the right way to approach it, and what are the things to look out for? Because obviously, there are good things to know, and there are also some good things you should not do. So we'll be chatting
most
about that.
definitely, and it's a small world. If you do something that pisses one person off, there's a pretty good chance that they will share that information, and you'll wind up pissing off quite a few people.
Yeah. Yes, it's a very small industry, but bigger than you think, but smaller than you think at the same time. But anyway, all right, I'm going to go. Thanks, man. Good to chat to you.
Likewise. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good day. Take care, man.
You can get in touch through our Facebook page or email us at stuartandtodd@gmail.com. Check the show notes for more information. If you enjoyed this episode, tell someone else and help us grow by sharing it on social media. Thanks for listening.